My dad was one of those dads that I don't remember him missing a game. I don't think he was coming to make me feel like sports were important. I think he was coming because he wanted to support me, and most of what he would talk to me about after the games was how hard I tried.
Well, I think if they have a real interest in it, then let's do everything in the world we can do to support them and help them achieve the best that they can do.
Sometimes I'll be able to hear him on the sideline, you know, go Lotte, go Lotte. I think best memory for me with my dad was playing street ball. He'd play basketball with us on the street, play football with us. It was just awesome.
Our time was spent together in the backyard every day, you know, or playing sports. My dad coached every single one of us until we were in high school.
My father and I bonded by boxing.
It's more for them rather than just about the sports.
So when I think of my dad, he's just one of the people that you look up to and you know that he's a good person. He spent countless hours teaching me how to do a layup.
He was a role model for me. You know, he was my hero, my idol.
So I just wanted to be like him and you know, set that example. And you know, he served in the military, so it seemed like that was the next step for me to do.
He just had that big of impact on me, and I made up my mind that I wanted to be a football coach.
He taught me a lot when I was younger. He just taught me how to play the game, how to be smart, and how to be a good person.
I cannot tell you, my freshman year, first semester, that fall camp, I did not unpack my bags until I went home for Christmas.
With Stevie, he wanted to quit the football program and just come home. And it was no redirection or anything else. He just was so discouraged with that. And I thought that he needed to get tough about it and see it through.
The best thing a dad can do is to put me in a situation to have a chance to find out how good I can get. And give me that stuff to find out, because otherwise you exit stage left somewhere along the way and you never find out.
No, football isn't guaranteed. If for, you know, any day my career could be done just like that, but education is forever.
I don't think you can really appreciate what somebody's done for you from a young age until you're older. And so now that I look back and see the type of person he was and the type of example, I would just say I appreciate the time and the patience.
Sometimes as parents we can overdo the pressure that we put on somebody to be excellent or to play the sport even.
If we can learn to rebound a little more and talk a little less, I think our kids would be a little better off.
It was cool because we were playing catch, but we weren't really playing catch because that's when we started talking about all the other kind of stuff.
What's important to me is this opportunity that I have to attempt now to be a father like my dad was.
Coming up, lessons of toughness and responsibility.
It couldn't have been better. I think I have been the luckiest kid ever.
Bronco was always just a very sweet, very willing to be obedient, very spiritual-minded young man.
It was an adventure every day, which was, and what else can a boy ask for? So back in the halter breaking process, we used to bring in colts from Texas in the trailer load, so 12 or 15 at a time, and so we'd have to go throw a rope around one and then somehow get the halter on it after we roped it. You have the halter behind your rear end and you're leaning back as far as you can, and they're stronger than you basically, so they just take their head and then pretty soon you're running, and the colt's running faster than I can run, and so then there's a choice. You either hold on and get drug on your stomach or you let go. And so I let go. And so Dad said, okay, let me show you how to do it. So what happens is he grabs the halter rope and starts leading this colt, and he relaxes just for a second, almost to turn to me and like to say, this is how you do it. He kind of jerks him and he starts running.
That's like it happened yesterday. I mean, that's the only time that's ever happened to me in my life.
And he's got spurs on, and so we hear this chink, 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 chink. His feet are just going faster and faster, and this corral is kind of sloped, and it's springtime. And so all the manure and water is run to the corner, and there's this giant just puddle of manure. And so it didn't take long to see that the trajectory of where he's going and what might happen, this was going to be an epic event. Because he can't let go, because he just chastised me for letting go, so that's not an option. And so he ends up being drug on his stomach.
And I've been teaching those guys how to not let that happen forever, and then I go in there with this crazy colt, and that crap was that deep, and I went right through it, boy.
And all I see now is the manure, as my dad is going like an alligator, it's just spraying off each side of his face. And eventually he lets go and kind of just sinks into the middle of this where you can't see anything until eventually his head comes up.
And I ended up right in the middle of it, and I come up out of the crap, and I thought, I got to make this light-minded.
He kind of went like this, and you could see his teeth. So everything was green other than his teeth.
So I started laughing. I said, boy, that was a ride, wasn't it?
And we just started laughing after that.
They love to get something on me where they can laugh at me and get away with it.
And he was a good sport about it. But that was one of the highlights of my childhood.
I can whistle from the top of that stadium at a game, and you'll hear it on the field.
His whistle is really distinctive. In the middle of a game, even with at Oregon State, I swear I could pick out his whistle if I'd made a play, but that whistle was like approval.
The most that I would get out of him by a whistle that he would recognize, that he'd go.
The rest of the crowd could have been booing, and if I heard that whistle, it was like, man, I did something good, and it was reassuring, and that was it was comforting to me as a kid and a child growing up to know that someone did care about me, and that they weren't afraid to share their approval, but they weren't overbearing. It was from a distance.
I could remember one time when he was in high school, and he got a little short pass and took off down through the field, and guys were coming at him from all sides, and I let out a big whistle to him, and I could see him tighten up, and boy, he just went right through the guys and down and scored a touchdown. At the end of the game, Dad, I heard that whistle. Man, I put the heat on, and I went right through them all.
His whistle was kind of the way to me of like, yeah, I can do this, or just keep going.
You know, I think that sometimes as parents we can overdo the pressure that we put on somebody to be excellent or to play the sport even, because we want them to be there, because we want our boys to be on that team. We want to, you know, it's as much for the honor of mom and dad as it is for anything else. So I think if they have a real interest in it, then let's do everything in the world we can do to support them and help them achieve the best that they can do.
My dad, his upbringing and his was hard and work oriented, and my dad has tried really hard to, in his own way, growing up, to make sure I knew he loved me. And yeah, whistle to some might mean come. A whistle to me meant he loved me and he was pulling for me.
The toughest person I've ever come across, physically and mentally.
He was intimidating to the other players around him.
He definitely had the exterior gruff side that people saw.
We're very close as a family. I like to think we're very close as a family.
In fact, most people probably don't even know we have a sister. She doesn't love getting in front of the camera the way Freddie does.
A couple of my brothers are pretty good at impersonating him. Don't get smart with me, Freddie.
And most of it I can't do on camera unless you have a really good editing department to bleep out a lot of it.
You chicken!
over here! Get over here right now! I'm gonna rip your face off!
Well, when I was younger, when he was playing, he'd take me to practice on occasion. And Roger Staubach and Bob Lilly and Leroy Jordan, all the old great Cowboy players, just being able to have those opportunities was pretty special to me.
The life of a football coach, you've got heavy demands on your time.
Coaching can consume you if you let it. We worked together in '94. It was great. I mean, I enjoyed it, and I wouldn't trade it for anything. A very positive experience for me.
One of the funniest stories when Kyle and my dad were throwing the football around. My dad threw the football to Kyle. He missed it. It landed in some dog doo-doo. And Kyle picked it up and threw it right back to him. He caught it and was like looking at his hands. At that point, Kyle just took off.
When I think about what I miss the most, it's the just hanging out. Every once in a while I'd say, I gotta leave you alone. I ought to go home. I just don't know what I'd do. You know, there's probably not any food there. You wanna go get some lunch?
I greatly miss him. The direction he gave us in our lives.
Oh, I miss everything about him. I wish he was here, because if he was here, he'd probably be on our staff here helping me out.
You know, he wasn't the guy that told us himself how much he loved us, but we knew.
What I would say is, I miss you, I love you. And, he was a religious man, so we'll see him again.
My dad loved us unconditionally, and that's what I want to pass on, to my kids, to know that they're loved no matter what, whether they play football or don't play football, or get into some trouble, or whatever, that they always know that their parents are there for them.
Coming up, learning to live a life you're proud of.
My dad was athletic, hardworking.
He was really disciplined. I was the joker of the family, but when it was time to be serious, we knew it was time to be serious.
I think best memory for me with my dad was playing street ball. He'd play basketball with us on the street, play football with us. It was just awesome.
Going to church was the funniest thing. Me and Haloti, we skipped a lot of class together, and he caught us a lot of times. It's not good. Don't do that, guys.
My dad played sports, my brothers, we all played sports, and we just always competed. Until I got bigger than everyone, then nobody wanted to play with me. Father passed away in December of '02.
At the time, Lotti was gone. He was at Oregon. So to me, it was like losing two dads. Not having Lotti around, not having my dad around. I didn't feel like I was in a spot to be an older brother or the man of the house.
Nada, one of the best on that defensive front.
My mom passed away right before the NFL draft.
The Baltimore Ravens select Haloti Ngata.
Just being able to say that you're an NFL player has been awesome. Becoming a father, that's probably the highlight of being in the NFL, just growing a family.
But seeing the life Lotti lived, and he's always had my back, and when I was doing wrong, he always told me so. He was a brother, father to me growing up.
I would say we're probably the closest between all our other brothers.
I forget sometimes that he's a superstar. I don't know that sometimes. I'm like, man, he's just my brother.
If there's a better defensive lineman in the game, I don't know who he is.
If I had to block him, I think I'd say Nada.
Two-time Pro Bowler, such a force inside, tremendous athlete in a 6-year out of Oregon.
Yeah, my dad, I think I miss his voice and his smile. Sometimes I'll be able to hear him on the sideline. Go Lotti, go Lotti.
The Super Bowl belongs to Baltimore.
Have I lived a life that you were proud of? I guess that would be what I'd ask him. Hopefully I can pass it down to my boys.
Coming up, building confidence.
My earliest sports memories were back in Tonga as a 5-year-old. And going with my father, and he would take me to the library and show me magazines that were sent from the United States. He showed me a picture of Muhammad Ali, Cassius Clay. And I remember my father telling me, someday we're going to get to America, and when we do, you will be a fighter. My father's dream became my dream, which was to be the heavyweight champion of the world. By the time I was 14 and just started high school, I'd had close to 80 amateur fights. I got distracted because I started playing high school football and figured out I was pretty good at it. Not only that, it was easy to me because of the training that I had in boxing.
This one a squiver of a kick. Vai Sukihama picks it up at the 35-yard line, finds a seam up the middle, at the 40, the 30. He has one man to beat, the 10, the 5, touchdown.
I retired from football and took a job at the local NBC station in Philadelphia. In my adult life, I've had 2 jobs. I played football and I talked about football. It's been a charmed life. When people heard that I was going to fight Jose Canseco, they thought I was absolutely out of my mind, but most of them didn't know that I had boxing experience and that, you know, I was in pretty good shape. They figured at my size I would be an easy launch for his career, what he had hoped to be a boxing career, and it just didn't turn out that way. I caught him with a left hook about 35, 45 seconds into the fight. I threw it the way my father taught me to throw it, from the legs, and I could hear him in Tongan yelling, "Duki, Duki, punch, punch!" But the fact that my father was there, he kept yelling at me in my ear because it was crowded and there was a lot of noise. "We could have done this for a living. We could have been the heavyweight champion of the world." You know, a lot of fathers and their sons like to go fishing to bond. Some who shoot baskets in the backyard to bond. My father and I bonded by boxing.
You know, growing up in my house was quite an experience because I was the youngest of 4 boys. I wasn't as fast. I certainly wasn't as competitive as they were, but I just wasn't as intense. I don't know that I had the same drive as my older brothers did. I think they were hoping that maybe I'd find a piano or a dance class or something that would work for me. We were raised to believe that if your mind could conceive it, your heart could believe it, then you could achieve it. Something pretty critical happened in the competition between me and my 3 older brothers, is that they stopped growing and I kept growing. And I grew to be 6'2" and far better looking, far more athletic, and everything started working out in my favor. And as my success started ramping up, there was never one moment of jealousy, there was never one moment of criticism. They were by far my biggest fans. I look back at that now and I think, here these 3 knuckleheads didn't think I was ever going to amount to anything, and it was fun to see the opportunities come, and for my brothers to be relishing in that moment with me was quite an experience and quite a time. From 1998 to 2013, at some level I was associated to BYU football, either as a player, coming back as an NFL football player, or the following 8 years as a coach there. When I was there and packing all my stuff up and I was preparing to walk out of that building, here I was now, a father and a husband. I had 5 kids. I knew that there was going to be some critical decisions that I needed to make. I came home one day and my little boy Jace, a little blonde-headed 8-year-old kid, he was standing there with a mitt and a ball, and he was holding a bat, and he asked me if I'd go outside and play catch with him. And I realized that this was the time and this was the chance, with my kids at some pretty darn impressionable ages, to focus on them. And I don't know that if I'll ever coach again, I don't know. And I don't know that that's real important today. But what's important to me is this opportunity that I have to spend time with my kids and with my wife and to be home. And if there's one principle that I want to teach my children, is that you try as hard as you can and always believe.